Welcome to the Valparaiso Chamber podcast, where we are interviewing the candidates separately who are running for mayor of Valparaiso in the November election. My name is Rex Richards, president of the Valpo Chamber. Today we are pleased to welcome Hannah Trueblood, who is the Democrat candidate. Welcome, Hannah, and thank you for taking this time to answer some questions which will help enlighten voters about your plans for your administration should you be elected in November. I will be asking you 10 questions, and these same questions will be asked to your opponent. Now, let's get right into the questions. Hannah, what motivates you to run for mayor?
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. Basically, what has inspired me to run for mayor were a couple of things. First, I'm a real estate agent. That's my full-time job. And I got into that business because I saw a lot of unethical things and personally had a pretty interesting first transaction myself when I bought my first home. And, I saw an opportunity for somebody to come into this field and act in the best interest of the clients instead of just thinking about, the next commission check. And, in real estate, you need that person that like, and trust to make one of the biggest investments in your life. And so that parallel is in our local government. I've lived here my whole life and have been involved in, community advocacy and things for 20 years. So I'm seeing firsthand a lot of issues in our community that really boiled down to a lack of honesty and a lack of transparency in how things are being done. So running for mayor is really the opportunity to right those wrongs and set a new standard for the way that our community and our local government, our relationship with one another.
Tell us about your family.
Well, I am one of three, and my brother lives in Colorado. My sister lives in Portage, and I am actually the third generation of Valparaiso to be raised in my family. And my kids are the fourth. And I have a daughter, Juliana. She's 10. She's in 5th grade. And my son, Guy, is 5, turning 6 in November. And he is in kindergarten. And I have my fiance is Joe, and he is a teacher down in Lowell.
Tell us what talents you bring to the role of mayor.
Yeah. So, being a real estate agent brings a lot of really great experience. Firstly, being that I work with people all day long selling homes and buying homes in and around the Valpo area. So I know why people want to live here. And I also know why people leave or don't buy houses here. So being able to bring that into the conversation and to kind of have an on-the-ground experienced understanding of where people's heads are at in Valpo is a great thing that I'll bring. I also have the negotiation skills, understanding contracts, being able to work with in complicated ways with lots of different moving parts. I have sometimes 4, 5, 6 real estate deals going on at once, and they're all in different stages. So and each stage you're dealing with different people, and you've got emotions, you've got a lot of money, you've got a lot of different things that are going on. So being able to really bring that all together and get to the finish line is something I'll be able to bring to City Hall, because obviously, as mayor, I'd be overseeing lots of employees for the city, but then also having to manage and work with the department heads, working alongside city council, all of the different contracts and things that we're looking into and plans for the future and things that have already been here and that we're working through right now. So being able to really compartmentalize each thing, but then also understand the importance of it together. I also, like I said, I have a very unique perspective from being on the ground. I have worked in community advocacy for a long time. I started out when I was in elementary school. I learned that there were kids that didn't have a home in my elementary school, and that felt so wrong to me. I had to do something about it. So some neighborhood friends and I got together and we started a tie-dye business, and we raised thousands of dollars that year and donated all of that to the local homeless shelter. So that's kind of something that I've been involved in my whole life. So being able to empathize and understand with different types of people and people with different backgrounds that are experiencing different things. We need to have somebody in the mayor's office that has overcome adversity and also has worked directly with other people who have overcome that as well, so that we can all really do well together as a community.
How expansive would any restructuring plans be in the mayor's office if you're elected?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and it kind of depends. There's a lot that we have to do, and the main thing that my plan in terms of restructuring in the mayor's office would really be to take a look at our standards and what we allow and what we disallow in terms of conduct and the behavior of those around us. When you go to a city council meeting, especially during the public comment, which is arguably one of the most important pieces of the city council meeting, you see the mayor and the majority of the city council members, they're sitting there, they're chewing their gum, they're not looking at the person, they're swiveling in their chairs, and they can't wait to get out of there. And like I said, public engagement is one of the most important pieces of local government, because those are the people that we're making the decisions with. And so they absolutely deserve to be involved in that conversation. So really setting that new standard of, at the very least, we're going to be paying attention to and giving the respect to the people who are taking time out of their busy day to come and tell us something that is important to them. So really less about a restructure and more about setting a fresh standard for how we're going to be running the city and how we're going to be working with the community.
The city recently announced plans to delay the sports complex out by St. Mary's Clinic on 49 Highway due to the higher than expected construction costs. Would your administration continue to develop the park, repurpose the land for other projects, raise taxes or user fees to pay for the project, or do nothing and wait for a better time to complete the project?
Yeah, great question. First, I think it's important to note that it was a very controversial situation with the way that that land for the park was acquired, using the ARPA funds, the COVID relief money that we got for something, and then the fact that, in 3 years later, after that pandemic, now we have this land and we're doing nothing with it. That to me just is wrong, and really kind of goes back to the level of transparency and involvement of the citizens in decision making. There are probably 101 different ways that I could think of that ARPA money could have been better utilized for, where we would actually already now be seeing a return on that investment, like giving more money to the nonprofits like the Caring Place. Also, a new senior center for one of the most vulnerable populations, especially during COVID. So the fact that we didn't do that is problem number one. Now, problem number two is that now, in an election year, no less, this big, beautiful plan that was supposed to be so wonderful and great, and we're going to do all these great things, now we're just not doing anything at all. And when we have a plan in motion, stopping all of a sudden, that kind of goes against physics, really. When we're moving forward, we really got to move. If we got to pivot, we'll pivot. But stopping completely, I don't think, is ever really the option. So what the goal for my administration to be with that would be to not just take a look at the situation first. We really need to see what we've got going on behind the scenes and make the best decision on how to move forward. Does it need to still be a park? Absolutely. We're already here, right? We've already got a lot of the plans drawn out. There's a lot of time and money that's already been invested into this. We need to follow through to a certain degree. Of course, with the cost of labor and materials and things going up, having it be overbid, okay, so let's take a look at like what we did with the skate park, where now we're doing it in phases. We could be quite simply could just take some of the least expensive aspects of that project and really apply that. And we could also use this opportunity to find more cost-effective ways to utilize the park, like using it for more rain gardens, for other, green natural spaces, and really utilize it that way. Because if you're not developing it as much, it's not going to cost as much. And there is the potential for a greater upside on that. Now, in addition to that, I wouldn't want to just develop the park in phases, but I also want to work on making it more accessible, because as it is right now, the only way that you can get to that is really by car. I mean, by bike, yeah, maybe. Walking, not so much. There's no V-line access. And, really expanding that and making sure that and other areas of town are accessible for people, using a resource that we already have, the V-line, and just expanding on it. That's just kind of one of the few things that I would want to do with that idea.
Are there any specific projects you desire to focus on?
There are a lot of different projects that I'd love to put focus on, but before we can really put any real plans in motion, the first thing that absolutely needs to be done is we need to do an audit on the city's finances. Just like you would if you were to acquire a new business, for example. Any new CEO would come in and they would do an audit on the company to kind of see what they got going on. And that's the same thing that I'll be doing with the city. And, make that transparent and public as much as we can so that everybody in the city also knows what's going on. So when we kind of find some discrepancies or inconsistencies or places where maybe money isn't being used as well as it could be, we can reutilize those funds, reallocate them, work with the city council, and come up with a budget with a plan so that we can do some of these ticket items, like starting to tackle the housing issue with reasonably priced housing, incentivizing small businesses to come here, increasing police and fire pay to be more competitive so that they can live where they work, things like that. We'll be able to actually tackle these projects in a way that is fiscally responsible without raising anybody's taxes to start. And that's really the big, most important aspect, is to really work with what we've already got, use resources that are already available and maybe are being underutilized, and kind of go from there.
Question number 7. How important is growth and development to the community's future?
It's incredibly important, but it's also important to note that not just any growth and any development. That's not necessarily what I mean. We need smart growth, and we need smart development, thoughtful growth and development. At this point, we have a lot of runaway development going on in the city with luxury high-rises and certain businesses getting extra tax benefits and things for projects that aren't necessarily benefiting the masses. And so what I really want to emphasize is that not all development is bad, but not all development is good either. When I was talking with Mayor Butterfield a couple weeks ago, he shared a really interesting story with me that I feel is really good considering the current climate and what's going on in the city. Is in his first couple months in office, this is when the county decided that they were going to move the county the fairgrounds from where they're at on McCord out. They're going to sell it, and it was going to be sold to a private developer, and so that area was going to be developed. And Mayor Butterfield said, this is one of the most historic pieces of property in our city. We can't just put apartments on it, So he was able to kind of lead the charge. They were able to change that situation. The city purchased the property, and now it's one of the most well-utilized parks in the entire city. So that just goes to show you that, yes, growth is good. We want to expand. We want to be able to have, more people living here and have better structures in place and have all of these things available for people. But on the other side of the coin, we need to take a look at what we already have and make sure that we are maintaining it and utilizing it to the best way possible. So development, yes, is great, but we also want to make sure that we're focusing on our city's history, which is part of why a lot of people want to be here, and then also, really our foundation and the infrastructure that maintains the growth. As a real estate agent, I had this metaphor where I talk about, an old house. And if you've got foundation problems with that old house, you just slap a quick fix on it and build a second story. It doesn't matter how beautiful and high-end and luxury that second floor is. If that foundation isn't stable, the whole house is going to come down. You're going to end up with a bigger mess than you started with. But if you take the time and you repair that foundation correctly, then you can build 100 stories on that house and it'll be better than it ever was. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on the right things and prioritizing the things that are already here before we go above and beyond to build the next thing.
Question number 8. Is there anything you would like to do to encourage businesses to expand and locate in Valparaiso?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of really great opportunities here, especially being a community that is really big into small business. We want to make it not just easier, but we want to give people a reason to stay here, not just open and close. We want to open and thrive. And that's a piece that I think is really missing right now. You see a lot of turnover, especially downtown. A lot of hopeful businesses come, they set up, and then things don't work out, and then they go away. And we don't want to do that. We want them to come, and we want them to stay, and we want them to succeed. So some really feasible options here, a couple of things like utilizing some city grant programs. There are plenty of other examples around where we can create a grant program to support small business owners, whether it be facade grants. Those things actually are already available to help, with the exterior renovations, which especially with older historic buildings can be very costly. Working towards making more buildings and businesses accessible, ADA accessible. Because that's not only going to help increase their customer base, but that's also going to help create greater opportunities for more employment. Is if a person, that has a physical disability wants to work at that place and it's not handicap accessible, they couldn't even walk in to apply. So really giving them more opportunities to expand their customer base and great jobs. Partner with the Chamber of Commerce even more than we already do and make a lot of these resources that are already out here more available. Talk about them more. Really expand on that. And then also utilizing the tax incentivized districts like what we've already got, but we want to utilize that to help with ignored parts of the city, the north side of town, for example. That used to be, the hottest place in town, and now it's kind of ignored, and there's a lot that we could bring over there instead of focusing just on downtown, which already has a lot of great features and could use some work in and of itself. But if we're creating more opportunity zones in different areas of town for businesses, then that's only going to help, with the flow of traffic and with things to do depending on where people live in town. And when you live on the north side and you've got plenty of opportunity for things to do on the north side, then you're going to be able to support those businesses, which is only going to help the businesses in the long term.
What are your thoughts about affordable housing in Valparaiso?
That might be my favorite question of the day. Well, so being in real estate, of course, that is my wheelhouse, and having been involved with different things for housing opportunities, previously Spring Valley Homeless Shelter, Project Neighbors, a lot of these organizations that their focus is with housing. It is one of the most important pieces of a community. We need shelter. That is a basic need. And outside of just housing that's affordable, we have a growing population of our community that has no home at all. And we're not even really addressing that problem. And we're not just talking about the people that are sleeping on the park benches or in the bus stations. There are people that are couch surfing. There are people that are living in their cars. They're staying with family, things like that. Now, tackling the reasonably priced housing, which is the way that I'd like to phrase it, is important, and we can incentivize developers and investors to work on projects that actually help fill a need in the housing market. And there's some studies going on right now to take a look and see where the greatest gap of demand is and supply is in terms of the demand. And considering that the average household income in Valpo is $56,000, I would guess that it is not $800,000 condos that we need more of. So really working with the developers and other investors to, not just build new property, but also rehab properties that are already there in some of these opportunity zones. We've got a lot of really beautiful, nice homes over in Hilltop and over on the north side. We've got lots of starter homes in the Bonta neighborhood, for example. And instead of the new shiny toy and trying to get more tax dollars, with the higher dollar homes, if we focus on what is actually needed here, which is housing for people that make $50,000 a year, our teachers, our firefighters, our police officers, things like that. Because when they're living in those communities that they serve, they're going to be better at it. It's going to be a safer community. It's going to be stronger schools. It's going to continue to build on those things that we already have that are great. Now, in addition to that, there's a lot of opportunity in terms of, again, connecting to resources that are already there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel with everything. There are lots of programs out there for housing and for down payment assistance programs, for education, on your financial wellness, all these different things. And we can create and be the hub of all of that information. That's going to really help bring people together and provide more opportunities for housing.
Okay, our last question is one that kind of gives you a chance to really talk about your vision for Valparaiso. And the specific question is, Hannah, what is your vision for Valparaiso in 10 years?
10 years, so that is going to be 2033. That's crazy to just even think about. But, so my vision for Valpo over the next 10 years, if we think, 8 years under a Trueblood administration, working on a third term maybe, we're going to see a really, truly vibrant community, because we are going to be focused on things like diversity and inclusion. We're going to see expanded engagement in terms of civic engagement. We're going to see really the place in Northwest Indiana that set the standard for how the surrounding communities are going to be run and operated. We're going to have a truly open and transparent local government and a really great working relationship with the constituents that we're serving. We're going to be, so 10 years from now, we'll be having regular town halls with the mayor, with the city council. We're going to see a revived the Valpo Next plan with expanded sidewalks and pedestrian accessibility. We're going to see significantly repaired roads and sidewalks, expanded bike paths that are actually safe to be on. We're going to see a lot of these reasonably priced housing developments that we just talked about, and really be able to start reaping the return on investment in public-private partnerships with nonprofits instead of the high-end luxury developments. We're going to see a better informed people who are active and engaged. We're going to see an expanded advisory boards with things like veteran support, where we've got regular transportation for our veterans out to the VA clinic in Crown Point. We're going to celebrate our diversity with, things like the World Cultural Festival that we just had a couple weekends ago. We're going to see more of that are actually sponsored by the city and that really bring people together and increased visibility and awareness for all of these different things like Juneteenth, for example. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be educating people about that. And we're going to be working together on more ways to continue to grow and expand the city services. And, just a really nice, positive future. And, lastly, important to mention that, in 10 years, hopefully we will be seeing the, again, return on investment of renewable resources, continuing the solar initiatives, more rain gardens, more natural habitats, more work with our Congressman Frank Mervan, who has led the charge in getting a lot of funding for Northwest Indiana for green technology and for green advancements. We're going to really be seeing a lot of return on that, and that's really the way that I see the direction for the city.
Thank you, Hannah, for making that momentous decision to run for elective office. On behalf of the Valparaiso Chamber, I'd like to thank you for caring about our city and hearing about your plans. This podcast is part of the Valpo Chamber's public policy series to help inform our members and citizens on the candidates running for mayor in 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you.